All right, let's talk about something we've all seen. You know how pessimism just sounds smarter? Today, we're going to dig into why that is. We're going to explore the whole psychology behind why bad news is so darn seductive and why those dire warnings just feel so much more believable than good news. So, yeah, let's just jump right in. Have you ever noticed this? The person predicting doom and gloom, they're treated like some kind of genius, right? Meanwhile, the optimist, they just get written off as naive. Well, there's a really powerful psychological reason for that. And believe me, it shapes how we see everything, especially our money. Just think about it for a second. You see a headline, analyst predicts market will rise 10%. Okay, fine. It barely raises an eyebrow. But then you see, expert warns of imminent market collapse. Now that gets our attention, right? Warnings about danger are just way more powerful than promises of good things to come. Okay, so let's dive into the heart of this thing. This isn't just about flashy headlines or media hype. No, there's a really deep-seated reason why pessimism is so intellectually seductive. And getting to the bottom of it is absolutely the first step to making smarter decisions in the long run. And hey, this is not a new thing, not at all. The philosopher John Stuart Mill was talking about this way back in the 1840s. He pointed out that we've got this long history of thinking despair somehow equals wisdom. You know, pessimism feels serious, it feels grounded. Optimism, on the other hand, can make you look like you have your head in the clouds, totally oblivious to risk. So why? Why does bad news have such a powerful grip on us? Well, it really boils down to three main psychological forces, and these are at play all the time, constantly shaping how we see things and how we react. Okay, reason number one, and this is the big one. It's all about survival. I mean, our brains didn't evolve to read stock tickers, right? They evolved out on the savannah in a world full of very real, very immediate dangers. And that has left a massive imprint on how we're wired. The Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman put it perfectly. He said this is basically an evolutionary shield. Think about our ancestors. The one who worried about the rustle in the bushes, well, he was more likely to survive than the one who was just staring at the yummy fruit on the tree. That instinct, that bias towards threats, is still running the show in our brains today. All right, reason number two why pessimism hits so hard, especially with finance, is, well, it's pretty simple. Money is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. Unlike a lot of other news, financial news has the power to affect pretty much every single one of us. I mean, think of it this way. A hurricane in Florida, as devastating as it is still pretty localized. But a stock market recession? Whoa, that hits everyone's jobs, their savings, their future plans. That's why financial doom and gloom grabs everybody's attention and fast. And this right here, this perfectly shows the lopsided way the media covers things, which just fuels our fear. Sudden crises, big market drops, they get the giant, bold red headlines, right? But slow, gradual progress? It barely gets a mention. And because of that, it's just so much easier to tell a scary, pessimistic story. Okay, so this brings us to a massive blind spot in almost all pessimistic thinking. And it's this. These forecasts totally, completely forget about our incredible ability to adapt and solve problems, especially when our backs are against the wall. See, pessimists love to draw straight lines. They'll take a bad trend that's happening right now and just project it out forever into the future. But what they totally miss is that problems create incentives. High prices make us look for alternatives. Big threats force us to innovate and come up with new solutions. We don't just sit there and let the straight line hit us. The oil price scare from the 2000s is a fantastic example of this. Remember that? Prices were skyrocketing to like $138 a barrel. And everyone, I mean everyone, was saying we were about to run out of oil. But guess what? Those crazy high prices made new tech, like fracking, suddenly profitable. And that unlocked a massive new supply, completely flipping those pessimistic predictions on their head. It's true what they say. Necessity is the mother of invention. All right, and that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle here, and it all comes down to timing. There's this massive difference between the speed of progress and the speed of disaster, and boy, does that skew how we see the world. I mean, if you just zoom out and look at the big picture, the case for optimism is pretty hard to argue with. The US stock market, for instance, has grown, get this, 17,000 times over the last century. That is just a staggering, mind-blowing number. But here's the catch. That kind of progress happens because of compounding. And compounding is slow. It's steady. It's kind of boring.
It's almost invisible day to day. You don't get breaking news about compounding. It's just too slow to be a dramatic headline. Setbacks, on the other hand, they are fast, they're shocking. Destruction often comes from a single point of failure, a plane crash, a market collapse. These things happen in an instant. They're dramatic, and you absolutely cannot ignore them.
You know, the story of the Wright brothers is the perfect illustration of this. They had their first successful flight in 1903. So, how long do you think it took for the world to even notice? Almost 4.5 years. Can you believe that? They were flying over and over again, and this world-changing miracle was just happening in plain sight and crickets.
And this is where it gets really telling. So you have 4.5 years of successful flights, and basically no one cares. But in 1908, there's one fatal crash, and boom, it's instant, wall-to-wall news coverage. A single tragedy completely wiped out years of quiet progress in the public eye. It's incredible.
So, where does that leave us? If we know that pure pessimism is flawed, what's the alternative? It's not about being a blind optimist, just ignoring all the risks. No, it's something way more realistic and way more durable. Let's call it sensible optimism. And this is not the belief that everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows all the time. Not at all. It's the understanding that setbacks are absolutely guaranteed, but that over the long haul, the odds of a good outcome are in your favor. I love how the statistician Hans Rosling put it. He said it's about being a very serious possibilist.
So here's the big takeaway, the crucial point. Success isn't free. Especially in things like investing, it has a price tag. And it's not a fine you pay for doing something wrong. No, it's the fee for admission. It's the cost of entry to the game. And understanding our natural pull towards pessimism is what gives us the stomach to actually pay that price. So what is that price of admission? Well, it's all the stuff that pessimism just loves to feast on. It's volatility, it's loss, it's doubt, setbacks, and just that constant feeling of uncertainty. These things aren't a sign that your plan is broken. They are the normal, required cost for getting that long-term growth. I want to leave you with this really profound thought from Stephen Hawking, and there's a beautiful irony to it. He said, "My expectations were reduced to 0 when I was 21. Everything since then has been a bonus." Maybe, just maybe, the smartest way to be an optimist is to expect things to be tough. Because when you do that, every single good thing that happens feels like a wonderful surprise. It all becomes a bonus.